Harmonizing humanity, harmonizing humanity. The train is leaving, so get on board. We're harmonizing humanity, harmonizing humanity, harmonizing humanity, harmonizing humanity. Hi, I'm Brian Harmon, and we're Harmonizing Humanity. Today our guest is Amy Phan West, and she's got a very interesting story to tell, and I actually can't wait to hear it. But first of all, Amy, why don't you tell us about where you grew up and your parents and how many siblings you have, that sort of thing.
Okay, my background. Hi, my name is Amy West, Amy Phan West, as you know. We came from Vietnam, a communist regime, and we basically escaped when I was 4 years old. So my dad has attempted many times to try to escape, but the third time, I guess before we're Buddhism and ancestor worshiper, that's our religion. And then when he heard about God, he said, God, if you're real, protect my family from Vietnam to America safe and I'll worship you. So then he took us underneath the fishing boat, hid us in his fishing boat, and then brought food supply, water, and then whatever clothes we have. And he hid us underneath, and he took us out to see in the early morning, and to pretend as he's going fishing, so the communists wouldn't stop him and imprison him again. So when we went out, because he knows his sea and navigation because he's a fisherman, so he's kind of familiar with that. And so we meet up with another bigger boat, and then we went on that bigger boat to head out to sea. And so when we went out there a couple of days later into it, we ran out of water. And then the food supply come later, but water, and we were like, I remember my sister was like turning green and just drooling because she's just so thirsty. And so my mom tried to cook with the ocean water. None of us can eat rice with ocean water because they didn't have filtration and whatnot back then. And so thank God there was an oil tanker out there. I don't know if they're British, German, or Americans, right? So we waved and they took us in, and then they give us food supply, and they flew us over to Thailand refugee camps. And we were there for like a year and a half. And then they flew us over to Huntington Beach, California, because of my dad paperwork from the war. He went to war to help the American to fight the communists. So they flew us over Huntington Beach, and they are that community that shared the gospel to us, and that's how we became Christian. But I remember growing up, in kindergarten, start to think about would we have food on the table? Would we have supplies and whatnot? I remember thinking that young, but I remember calling on God, the God I just learned about, and just knew. And I go, God, would you provide for us? And I remember food will always be on the table, either through the neighbors or through the church community or whatnot, but God always have compassion for people to bring food to our family. And it's so amazing. America is such a great place, so full of compassion, and land of opportunity and freedom. Sorry, I got a little emotional.
Right.
Because
okay.
I'm so thankful.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful to be in America, and where we have the freedom to be whoever we want, to live this life, to have a future, and be successful if we want. Not in like communist regime where they will kill you if you believe in something else that they don't like, or they will compensate stuff that they want from you. And so as Americans, we are proud Americans, of American Vietnamese. And I encourage you, if you hear me today, if you know what we have here in America, appreciate it. Teach the younger generation, what we have here, our constitutional rights and our freedom of speech and religion and freedom to bear arms. Protect that, preserve that, pass it to the next generation so then they can fight for their future. If we don't, there's a saying that evil prevail when great men stand by and do nothing. And that's the problem. So I feel like for such a time as this, the chaotic that's going on in California, from education, from different legislators that's passing, and taxes on our state, and also housing isn't even affordable anymore in California. So, you know, what's going on? We need to stand up, speak up with boldness and courage, and say enough is enough. You know, we need to change the pace that's going on right now in California and in America. So that's my heart with that, my thought on that.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about what you remember of going to like grade school or
Yeah, I
elementary
remember,
school?
yeah, coming here in America, and I didn't speak English well. None of us did know the language, right? So we have to assimilate into the culture and learn. So my dad put us in school, public school, and so we learned English from there. And then my parents, you know, work hard day and night. They sew. That's what their trade was in Vietnam. So they took it into America, and they sew garment for $1 a garment. And that's how we survive in America. But God provide for us, you know. And then they start slowly learn English, and then they learn the Constitution and American and get their citizenship. So once they got citizenship, we all came in. I remember that was in my in high school, my freshman year,
Okay.
when they got American citizenship, and we all came in. And we're so proud to be Americans and the land that they have here for us, the freedom. But now, you know, me and my husband, we got married, and we have 3 boys, and they're 7, 5, and 3, and they're young, you know, but we're training them to be great citizen. And it's a lot of work, you know, but, you know, it's worth it because that's what family is all about. And then we have a small business that we run in the city of Westminster, and that's how we're providing for our family here.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the next thing I want to ask you about is if you have any recollections of what you did in like high school and what you enjoyed, things like that.
Yes, I do remember in high school, you know, I went to Edison High. I did track and field and some volleyball and whatnot, and I love sport. And I remember in high school, you know, it's so, I guess junior high and high school transition, you learn to find yourself. And I think junior high is so hard, you know, and being, you know, from a different country, learning to understand the culture here. And I always struggle with, you know, learning English and whatnot because I didn't feel secure enough. But, you know, I feel like what helps me was knowing God and what He thinks of me. You know, academically, I did well. And then I graduated high school and I went to OCC, which is down the street here. And then I got my business in administration. And then I went to Cal State Long Beach, transfer over there for my teaching degree. So that's what I attained in the school years. So, yes, I have fond memory growing up. I remember my dad has 7 kids, okay?
7 kids.
7 kids.
Okay. Well, you mentioned that you started a business here. Why don't you tell us about that business?
So with my business, have you guys heard of Airbnb? It's the same platform for our business for cars. So instead of renting your home or, you know, a room, you rent your own personal cars. So we have a lot of cars that we own, and we this is our 4th year into the business, and we've learned, you know, the rope on it and what's the best season for what car, you know, would be the best for, you know, summer or versus winter or versus spring. So we kind of got that down, and that helps our business a lot. And then, of course, the key is great customer service. You cannot do anything with any business without great customer service. So they love us. We're so personal with them, and we give them, you know, the win-win service for both. So they love us, and they always come back to rent from us again. So we really enjoy that. Yeah.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that you're interested in starting a political career, that you've already taken some steps in that direction.
Yes.
Why don't you tell our audience something about that?
Well, yes, I'm getting into the political arena. I started last year in 2018 when I ran for Westminster City Council. Out of 13 candidates, I came in fourth. And I only have 4 months to really campaign and knock on doors. And I think what was most effective was the one-on-one personal door knocking. And the people get to meet the candidates and they respect what I stand for and my platform, and that I actually came to the door and talked with them, and they really appreciate that. And so I think I got a lot of votes from that. And one thing I learned is that I wish I have more volunteers, though. I had, like, you can say 5 consistent volunteers that walk with me 8 hours a day, every day, except for Sunday for church and Saturday for family. But yeah, every day during the week. And we work hard, and I was the least funded candidate as well. I came up with only, I think, $10,000, and other candidates have about $50,000 to $70,000, and they have more time to prepare for the campaign. So I felt like, what I did got a lot of traction for the first time candidate. And so I am running again in 2020, so I'm preparing myself right now, just, donation, contribution to the campaign for 2020, and also just talk to the community, the people in my city, and just to let them know, I want to defend our city, I want to protect, and I want to move our city forward, and asking them for their advice and their opinion as how they like to see our city move forward. And they appreciate that, and I'm all ears, to hear what people have to say. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody has some fun memories about when they're growing up. Why don't you share some of those with us?
And he would take us on the weekends, down to the beach, because we live in Huntington Beach, close to the beach. So we'll be on a rollerblades, and my dad and some of us will be on the bikes, and we just ride down to the beach, and we have so much memories. And then, the hillside where there's grassy area in Huntington Beach near the pier. We would roll down as kids down those hills, and we have such a blast. We have so much fun. And then we'll bike back up or rollerblade back up home. And those memories, people say time is money and whatnot, but those precious memories that you spend with your family growing up, that no one can take it away. And that's the biggest treasure you can leave behind with your children. And so, in America right now, even in California alone, our taxes are so high. And when I campaigned in 2018, I talked to the neighbors, in Westminster, and I go, you know what, the taxes are crazy. And they agree to that. And I go, you know what, I want to be able where there is fiscal transparency with our tax dollars, and that I want more money going to your pocket, and then you can have a vacation or two with your family and spend those memories, that no one can take away. And they're like, yeah, we don't even have vacation. I go, yeah, it needs to change, and start up with Sacramento and then within the cities. So, if we can change that, oh, what a world would it be, right? When actually the government and those elected official actually treats our tax dollars as it's their own. I think there's a lot of change can happen with that, positive change.
Exactly. Yeah. Romney got in trouble for stating it not very politely, but the fact is there are a lot of people that receive more money from the government than they pay in taxes. A lot of people don't pay any taxes, and then a lot of people do, but they get money from the government also. And I'm not sure about the new tax laws, how that affects it, but I think it's even more so that you get a $22,000 allowance for 2 people, and so you have to be making quite a bit of money before you're paying much tax at all. And so for those people, if you say let's lower taxes, it doesn't really mean anything. It's like, well, what's the point of that? That doesn't do anything for me. And I think rich people aren't really affected that much by taxes,
Yeah,
because
it's the middle class.
right.
Yeah.
If you can only afford 5 jets, is your really life any worse than if you can afford 10 jets, right?
Right,
You
exactly.
can only ride one at once at a time anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that's what's happening to California, is that we have a lot of very, very rich people,
Mhm.
a lot of
Other
yeah,
people.
yeah, a lot of billionaires per capita compared to everywhere else, and a lot of 100 millionaires, 50 millionaires, that sort of thing, and then a lot of poor people.
Yeah.
We have a rate of poverty that's I think maybe 6th in the nation, and
Yeah.
yet our wages are probably maybe number 1, something like that, in terms of what people get paid who work. So, yeah, the middle class is kind of what's getting squished out there.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah, because California, they want to get rid of the middle class, and a lot of middle class are moving out to different states because they can't afford it, and so now we're left with basically what they want is the very poor people who will rely on the government to help them, and those rich people. But the more tax they're going to tax on the rich, they can't sustain their business in California anymore. If it's too much, they're going to move out and do business somewhere else, like in Texas, in Arizona.
Yeah, the corporations that employ thousands of people
Right.
aren't gonna want to pay those kind of taxes forever.
Right, right. And so, I mean, when would, those elected official, our governor, understand that we can't tax everyone to death?
Mm-hmm.
It's their management of our tax dollars. It's what come down to, you know what I mean?
Right.
They tax us billions and billions and everything, and yet nothing is being done.
Mhm.
So,
Even at the federal level, unfortunately, of all the Republican candidates, President Trump was, I think, the only one who didn't see the excessive government spending as a problem. He said, no, that's not a problem, and the deficit being so huge and getting bigger, he said, well, why is that a problem? But and it's not just the size of the national debt. It's the percentage of, if our economy were going faster than the debt, then that would be fine. But our
Yeah.
economy can't grow nearly as fast as
Yeah.
the debt is increasing.
yeah.
But
Well, it start with every presidential, right? And then the debt adds up and piles up.
Sure.
So then now when Trump gets to his, presidential, I mean, he has to take care of what happened in the past as well to do with those debt. And we're in the trillion, right, when Obama left office, right? And then we still have to fix that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot of money.
it's not all Obama, though.
It's everyone.
Everyone,
From the
yeah.
Bush to, keep going farther and farther.
Keep on
Yeah.
going back to Nixon and
Yes.
Johnson and everybody.
Yes, I know, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
It's just then we were talking billions instead of trillions.
right, right. And I think if everyone who is elected official would look at their tax dollars that they collected as their own, I think that's vital. If they manage their household the way they manage the government,
Mm-hmm.
I think we would save a lot of money. And that's common sense to me. And so as I'm going to run again in 2020, that's my mindset. I am a small business owner. I'm a mother. And, I want to do what's right. I'm not a politician. I'm not here to do anything but just to fight for our freedom and to do what's right.
I understand you're involved in some other political things other than just running for office. You want to tell us about that?
Oh, I'm also a delegate for the California Republican Party in California here. And making decisions, just helping the conservative movement and to step up to make a difference. And it's a lot of work. We have a lot of work in our hands in California especially. But I think it's doable if we bring the conservative values. A lot of people are pretty conservative if they own a home Either if you're Democrats or Republican, you're still conservative when you own a home, right? Or if you have kids, or if you have insurance, you have payments you have to do, you kind of are more conservative fiscally, like, with your money wise. And so I think when I bring to the people in my city, Westminster, about conservative issue, that's what I talk about, It's conservative on fiscal transparency, conservative on homeless issues, which we have a problem here, and we need to deal with it. And we need to use our tax dollars toward that in our city, not to waste it on lawsuits or other things that are not necessary. So I think it's priority and where we should put it in toward to the people and for the people that lives and work in the city. So.
Yeah, it's clear that you're doing a lot of stuff to make the world a better place.
I try.
And what I'd like to ask you is, why is it that you go to all this trouble to do things that help the community rather than just focusing on yourself?
You know what? That's a really good question. And I know, normally our human nature is that we want to do things to help us to be successful and to move on to the next chapter in our lives. But I just feel like I remember there's a burden in my heart when I was in high school, and I see the disadvantage of how the government setting different rules and regulation toward the poor or to different, issues, the people. And I'm like, you know what? I really want to fight for those who can't fight for themselves. And I was just like, I'm like a fighter in a sense, because I came from Vietnam, a communist regime. We escape it, If I can survive the fishing boat, I think I can survive, politics and whatnot. So that with that heart, I just want to make a difference. And then it's kind of died down because I didn't know the direction. I didn't have mentorship toward that passion, that desire. And then when I got to, after getting married and having kids, that passion stir up again. And then I heard on the radio about Concerned Women for America. And I go, that's interesting. I would like to get involved with that, because what they do is they pray, they inform the community what bills and legislature that is about to pass or already passed, what action we can take to make a difference in our community on that issues. So I go, I want to join. So I call and I'm like, can I get started? What can I do? So they direct me to how to be the prayer chapter for Orange County. So I lead a prayer chapter with women, and men is joining us as well, to get to pray. That's first most important thing, prayer, and then to be informed, and then to have appropriate action. So that's what we do once a month. And and the woman loves it because they feel like their contribution to their community as well, and their future and the future of their children. And so I just feel like as my faith grown in the Lord, this burden stir up even more to try to make it different. Because there's a saying, evil prevail when great men stand by and do nothing. And I feel like for such a time as this, what's going on in our state and in our nation, in the world, there's so much injustice. I mean, what will we do? What would it take for us to stir up and say enough is enough? What would it take for us to say, you know what? We need to make it different for our generation, because the generation after us will look back at us and say, what did you actually do for your generation? And I want to be able to say, you know what? I actually try my best. And I actually defend those who can't defend themselves, like the unborn, or, family values or whatnot, like that, education. I mean, we have to stand up, and that's the reason why I'm stirred with passion to run for politics, to make a difference, to lead the prayer chapter for Concerned Women for America. And all this is on my own dime. And we do this because we want to impact our world, our generation, and the generation after us. And it only takes one person who's passionate to make a difference. And we see that throughout history. And then that fire stir up for more people to rise up. So I think if you hear me today and you feel a burden in your heart to make a difference, and you don't know, I encourage you personally to continue to stir up that burden in your heart and to work toward it and to move toward it and to equip yourself in the meantime for the tasks ahead. So I just encourage you to get mentorship, people that you know who cares about you, who will see the best interest and give you the best advice, and just go with that and move forward in that direction. And then when doors open, you'll be equipped and ready for that task and for that purpose.
Well, I've enjoyed our time together here. I hope our viewers did too. But I'd like to thank you for being with us,
Thank
Amy.
you, Brian. Thank you. It's a pleasure to talk with you, and thank you for bringing me on.
You're welcome. I'm Brian Harmon, and we are harmonizing humanity. Thank you very much.